Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. It's been about 2 months since I've planted out my winter garden, so I thought today I'd show you how it's all growing, and I'm also going to throw a few extra seeds in the ground. Most of my summer garden is now shutting down. All of this will be headed to the compost soon. Some of my plants that I put in to extend the season don't know that winter's coming and are still looking quite good because we haven't had any of the frost as yet. I've got Mizuna, which is enjoying the conditions. These are just great in a salad or a stir fry. Like my zucchini, my eggplants don't know when to shut down either. The cucumbers have all finished and my tomatoes have certainly said goodbye. Before we take a look at the winter plantings, I thought I'd just show you how my little carrot bed is going. So they're really starting to kick in and they're not quite at a point where I will thin them out. I'm quite happy with them growing really close like that. When there's a few carrots that's looking like they're a decent size to pull, I'll carefully pull those out and then I'll be leaving the smaller ones in to grow a bit longer. So they're going really well. And compared to a bed that's been in for some time, but I'm still harvesting from, where I did pull out the biggest ones, which leaves the smaller ones to keep getting larger. So it's really just extended my harvest. I am getting some pest pressure now, with some of the tops being eaten by probably rodents. So you can see there, a little rodent's had a go at that, but the ones next to it are great, but it's still providing heaps of food from the one planting of these carrots. My garlic is starting to come up along with some kale plants that have decided to grow, and there's plenty of Mizuna and lettuce volunteers. I don't mind them coming up in this garlic bed at the moment, but we'll pull them out by late winter so that the garlic isn't impacted at all. I've got a lovely patch of rocket coming along. I love a peppery rocket salad with mashed potato and a bit of a juicy steak. This plant here is a cabbage that I actually cut off at ground level, but I didn't remove the stem or the roots, and now we're getting about 4 different heads of cabbage developing from this one plant. So some might call it lazy gardening. Perhaps it's a really clever way to get lots of harvests. Now, in my planting out my winter vegetable garden video, which I'll leave a link for, if you saw that, you might recall that I didn't plant any brassicas in this bed because I didn't want to have to cover all 3 beds and protect them from the white cabbage moth. But you'll see here that there's a few brassicas that have grown. I did cut off an old cabbage plant or 2 just at the base, and they've regrown and they're actually looking like they're producing little cabbages. So I'm going to leave those. I've also been harvesting some of the leaves on the weaker plants to feed to the chickens. This plant here is also an example of a plant that I just cut off at the base, and it's regrown beautifully. I've been cutting that and using it in stir fries and for my breakfasts quite frequently, and it's going great. This is another example down the end here where I've got multiple plants coming out from the base, but there's some mildew on that, so I'll be just pulling down bits of this plant and feeding it to the chickens as need be. This is a red Russian kale, and I did have one go to seed in a bed just down there, and I'm finding seeds and little plants coming up all over the place, so I'll leave that. It's plenty of space around that plant, so I'm not too fussed about that. I did plant some spinach seeds which have grown nicely. This one I haven't harvested from, but I will be doing so shortly. With my beetroot, I like to plant multiple seeds at a time, and you get this situation where you've got in this case 4 different beetroots coming up, what I'll be doing is harvesting this one fairly soon probably, which will give a little bit more room to the remaining beetroots there. Now that's a lovely chogia beetroot, which is the pink and white striped beetroot. That's a golden beetroot coming up. Mustn't have had the same success with the seeds with that one, only one coming there. But over the back here, I've got the red beetroots coming. So I've got a few different bulbs coming right there. With the lettuce, I direct sowed. I just sprinkled some seeds around the garden, and I've got various lettuces coming up. I think I might have harvested from that one already, but this one might be next on the list to harvest. Right next to it, another seed that I just spread around was radish seeds. So I've got a few growing in here, which I'll just be easing out one at a time if I can, and harvesting those as I need them. Got another little spinach plant hiding in there. Now that is some more of the golden beetroot. What will happen once I start to harvest these plants around that little beetroot that's hiding in there, once I sort of harvest all of these plants, that will give that more space, and then that will kick in. I'm not too worried about that at this point. Moving further along, there's some more chogia beetroot, another little red Russian kale seedling that's grown up. I've got some spinach coming up there. Various lettuces are just making their way through there. This plant here is a red spinach. Now, I didn't actually harvest anything from it before it went to seed. I think I might have just planted it at the wrong time, but it's producing beautiful seeds here. So I'll be harvesting those, and I'll also be letting it spread those seeds around this garden so that hopefully it will grow when the time is right. This end of the garden isn't as busy as that other end, so I might be adding in some spinach seeds just to fill this little section in a bit. Again, I've got the red beetroot and some of the chogia beetroot. There's some mizuna that's found its way in. I didn't plant that. So this end, it's not growing as well. I think I might give it a bit of a burst with some duck bedding to see if we can kick it into life a little bit more. Got a random potato coming up through there. Some more beetroot. Now let's take a look at this second bed, which I did plan out with quite a few brassicas, and they're growing beautifully. I've also got a random sunflower that's come up, but I don't know how well that will flower once the cold weather really kicks in. We'll make a start down this end of my middle bed. I've got some lovely lettuce that's actually grown out in the pathway, which I will be leaving, and I'll just be stepping over until I've harvested it all. This little guy has been a bit eaten by chickens or bugs of some description. There's some little fungi coming up. I love to see that. It just means that the mycelium is spreading through the wood chips. My sorrel plant, which was looking very shabby in summer, is really starting to look lovely now, and I have been harvesting quite a few of the leaves for my salads. Right next to it is some tatsoi. I did already harvest a huge tatsoi from this area, and it's left these two plants, one at the back there and this one, to grow on, and this one will soon be ready for harvest. Just over here is a beautiful kohlrabi plant. I don't grow kohlrabi very often, but I think they just look amazing. So that's starting off really well. Right next to the kohlrabi at the front here is a broccoli that's starting to do well. And over here, looking pretty magnificent, is one of my collard greens. I do use those leaves in stir fries and in coleslaws, but also I'll put it into a smoothie. Just over the back here, it's one of my January King cabbages. which is starting to get some size on it. And these plants, I just love the colour, are cabbages, red cabbages, which will take a little while to form a head, but they've made a great start. Hiding in here is some leeks that were already in the bed, so I didn't plant those 2 months ago. They've been in for some time. They were self-seeded from another leek planting. Some more little leeks, which will be growing bigger soon. Hiding in here is some Swiss chard. This one here, you can tell by the shape of the leaves, is a Brussels sprout. Now, in my experience, they do take some time to get to the size where you'll be harvesting the sprouts. So that one is a long way off. Usually with my lettuce, I'll just sort of harvest leaves from the sides and keep the plant going, unless I've got masses of these, in which case I might take the whole plant. But I haven't got too many of these, so that's how I'll be harvesting. There's another one of these lovely leafy oak leaf, I think they're called, lettuces, and they're the ones more likely I'll take the whole plant because there's heaps coming up in the garden of those. Next to my sunflower, I have a Tuscan kale coming up. Just love those. Again, in a smoothie, cut it up in your coleslaws, or I just stir fry it, often with onion, and add it to my breakfasts with my omelettes. Here is some of red cabbage coming along, and I'll just take the opportunity to get this little dude off. There we go, he's done. So there's a couple of plants there, lots of lettuce, and there's the spinach that's growing in amongst it as well. There's some leeks and more broccoli, a smaller little cabbage plant. I don't mind various sizes, it spreads out the harvest. Here's some more tatsoi. We need to get the dirt out of that. Now this is where I transplanted some celery plants. So they're starting to get established. I have celery in other areas of the garden, so I'm in no hurry for those. Some more of that lettuce. And here I've got a magnificent looking mustard plant. I just love the colour. Again, great cut up into a salad. I use the small leaves for that, or the larger leaves I'll add to a stir fry. In amongst the brassicas, I've got this beautiful pak choi, which is well and truly ready to harvest. I might be grabbing some of this and having it in a stir fry soon. Now, the third bed that I planted a couple of months ago is this bed here, and it's the one that I trialled some duck bedding on as well, and that seems to have been successful. I've got really great growth with some of these brassica plants, so I might be spreading the duck bedding around a little bit more. Okay, right at the start of this bed, I did have a few brassicas that struggled. I had an escaping chicken that really got into this area and dug most of it up, but this kale survived, so that's kicking in. I've actually just transplanted those leeks from another area of the garden, so they're just re-establishing themselves there, and I hope they'll kick on. In here, a little tatsoi hiding in underneath the broccoli plants, and I've got some curly leaf kale that's starting to get going. I am finding all through the garden these little sorrel seedlings. My sorrel plant certainly has spread itself around, but I can manage that. I don't mind having some more sorrel in this area. I just won't let it go to seed as readily next year. I've got some really healthy looking broccoli plants just here. Cauliflower plants and another Tuscan kale. It's growing really close to the broccoli, but I don't think it's affected the growth at all. These little tatsois are beautiful and are growing really well in amongst here. Some parsley that's hiding and some more kale plants. Now in here I've got I thought at the start that they might have been coriander, but I'm starting to think they're actually little celery seedlings. So I'm going to have plenty of celery. Here is a beautiful broccoli plant that's actually starting to get ahead. And this is another one. This one was set back a little bit. I actually dug it up from next to this big one and moved it. So it's a little bit behind, but that will catch up. We don't need them all coming to harvest size at the same time. Some more of this Tuscan kale, and that's some red Russian kale that, again, self-seeded. Got a red cabbage that's coming along nicely here. I've got pak choi that's been hiding under there, which is starting to flower and go to seed, which I might just let it do and spread those seeds around. Some parsley, actually in there. That's one of those little kale plants that's self-seeded right down there. But I'm just going to leave it and see how they all go. And, oh, that little broccoli is starting to form a head also. Right here is another bed of winter veg that I planted with leftover seedlings after planting my original 3 beds. Now they're probably a couple of weeks behind my other garden beds, and I've planted them a little bit more thickly too. I have added the duck bedding, so I expect these plants will take off pretty well, and I don't think the closeness of the plantings will impact them too greatly. I might be wrong, but we will see. So I've got cauliflower and cabbage. There's a curly leaf kale there. That one is a cabbage of some description. I can't quite remember what that is. Over the back here, I think that one looks like a cauliflower leaf. Now here is a whole heap of lettuce. These plants all have grown from seeds that was spread around by one plant that was in this area. I did show how I harvested seeds, so I'll leave a link to that video. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick weed tidy up. Get them down, get any grass as well and truly out of the area. There's some little tatsoi plants through here, I'll leave those. Now most of these weeds are their roots just up in the compost layer, so we're really not disturbing the soil, but it's good to get these grasses out of here. Okay, so I think we're ready to plant now. Got 5 different seed packets here. One of them is actually a seed mix. It's an Asian greens mix. I find the Asian greens grow really fast and go to seed just as quickly, so you've got to kind of keep up with planting. So I'll be throwing some of those in. In my original bed, I did plant some little red radishes, but they failed. So I've got some red radishes to put in. I've got some endive and some radicchio, which I haven't planted before, so I'm going to add that. And I'm going to add some spinach in as well, because I've got lots of seeds, and who doesn't love a bit of spinach? So I'll just sprinkle some of these little radish seeds around. Okay, I'm just putting in a few, not too many, and see how we go with them. And this is my Asian greens stir-fry mix. You can see there's a few different seeds there. It'll be interesting to see what we've got here. Probably some pak choi and bok choy, that's what I'm hoping for. Now it's quite wet today, and the soil is damp, so I'm just going to leave it like that, and we'll see how we go. So that just leaves some spinach to get in the ground. I'm just going to add some spinach around these existing plants here because there's plenty of room. And I'll probably just finish off this pack. I've still got a whole bundle of spinach seeds inside, so we'll get these moved on. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's quick visit to the veggie garden. Everything is coming along really well, and pleased to get a few seeds thrown into the ground to keep it all going. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.